Let me start with Lady Starmer's clothing. She looked great in her new outfit yesterday at London Fashion Week, worth £2,500. She has, though, been accused of crass insensitivity by one Labour backbencher. What's your view?
Well, I think that my understanding is that outfit was borrowed to try to showcase British fashion, which is one of our great export earners. And there's nothing unusual about people who are going to be photographed borrowing gowns for events like that.
Yeah, but appearing yesterday at the fashion show was rather fanning the flames, wasn't it, of the controversy over accepting expensive clothing while her husband's nicking 300 quid from pensioners.
Well, I think that she was probably, I can't speak for her, but I think that she was probably wanting to play her part in highlighting British fashion at its showcase event and pointing out that, once again, that this is one of our great export industries and something we're very good at as a country.
OK, Daily Mail today suggesting Sir Keir has accepted at least £76,000 of freebies, including the Royal Box at Wimbledon, hospitality at a Coldplay concert, Arsenal away games with the Foreign Secretary in tow. The list goes on. How does that align with the son of a toolmaker, man of a people image?
Well, I think he's an Arsenal fan. I mean, it takes all sorts, I suppose.
Well, you can pay for his tickets like the rest of them.
But we only know about this because these things have been registered as appropriate. And I think the Prime Minister had his say on that yesterday when he was in Italy. I'm here in Berlin. We're trying to
Yeah, we'll come to that. As I said, Dame Angela, if you don't mind, I just want to clarify this to start with. If I may, he's taken £76,000 worth of freebies. He's going to great lengths to point out to us that he's a man of the people, and he's taking 300 quid off pensioners and taking £76,000 worth of freebies.
Well, look, I think it's important also to remember that with respect to pensioners, the triple lock is being maintained for the whole Parliament, and that means that pensions are going to rise by 2.5% by earnings or inflation, whichever is the greater. That means that pensioners will be, we think, close to well over £1,000, £1,500 better off by the end of the Parliament. So I think it's important to remember that we've inherited an economic mess from the Conservatives that we've got to sort out, and that means some difficult decisions that none of us wanted to make.
Yeah, and does that mean the difficult decision of turning down freebies?
Well, you'll have to ask him.
You're representing the government today.
He had an explanation of the Arsenal visit. I'm not sure whether Coldplay is possible to have an explanation.
No, maybe we'll ask him. Rachel Reeves, Angela Rayner fighting over a 21-room Dorney Wood while pensioners are struggling to heat their homes. It's all adding up to a party that's at odds with working people.
Well, I think it's probably adding up to some newspapers that want to try to make that be the case. We know that Dorney Wood has always been a property that's loaned to chancellors. I certainly spent a couple of very nice occasions there when Alistair Darling was chancellor.
Good for you.
And the chancellor takes Dorney Wood. So I think this is all interesting, but I'm here in Berlin to talk about the problems.
I'm coming to that. I'm going to come to that. I said that at the top. Dame Angela, Dame Angela, do you accept that the optics are not good in the first 100 days of your party, that you are a party for working people?
Well, I think we've done a lot of good in the first couple of months, including dealing with the rail franchise fiasco, looking to see what we can do to extend bus travel, seeing what we can do in terms of creating a better business environment for some investment. And in fact, the Prime Minister yesterday helped to announce a joint Italian investment in UK business. We've got to get growth going again in this country, and that's what we've been working on.
Looking for Italy for guidance when it comes to migration, reducing people arriving there from 126,000 to 44,500 in 12 months, according to their latest data. What are they doing right?
Well, they're dealing with some of the issues upstream. I think they have a bespoke deal with Tunisia. What you've got to do with these very sophisticated people smugglers that work across border is to have much more cross-border coordination, which is why we announced Martin Hewitt as the new border security commander, and today have announced there's a £75 million extra investment for equipment, for cross-border working to make sure that we can try to get these smuggler gangs where they belong, behind jail. And to do that, we'll have to cooperate with our international partners, work across border, look to see what we can do where the people smugglers are selling false hope in source countries. And that is what the Prime Minister was doing yesterday in Italy.
Yeah. You mentioned the Tunisia deal, paying Tunisian millions to stop the boats leaving the country in the first place. Italy has also done a deal with Libya, where the Coast Guards are stopping migrants leaving there as well, essentially pushing people back to detention camps where they're facing torture and other abuse. That would be something that the British government would be comfortable with?
No, of course not. What we want to do is create international cooperation. Any scheme that we consider would have to be value for money. It will have to be in line with our international obligations. It have to be scalable and effective. And we still don't know, particularly with the Italian-Albanian deal, whether that is actually the case. We do know that the Rwanda deal certainly wasn't that.
Yeah, rubbing shoulders with the Italian Prime Minister, an Italian Prime Minister who feels that charity ships in the Med, the captains, should face huge fines if they carry out more than one rescue at a time, leaving other people.
If
I may ask the question, that was just a statement of fact at this stage.
Oh, okay.
Is that something that Labour and their government would condone?
Well, look, the Italians are a NATO partner and a G7 country. Prime Minister Meloni is entitled to her views. We don't have to agree with all of her views just because we've met with her. There are things that we can cooperate about, both within NATO, the G7, and within Europe as part of the Prime Minister's reset of relations with our European neighbours. What we do know is that we cannot solve these cross-border problems with migration and people smuggling, with the exploitation of people, with the deaths that we've got in the Channel, without working across borders with our European partners. And that is what the Prime Minister was doing yesterday.
And would you condemn the Italian Prime Minister and her government for telling captains of charity ships in the Med that they can only carry out one rescue operation at a time?
Listen, we spend a lot of time working with our French counterparts in the Channel, rescuing people who are in peril. Unfortunately, only a few days ago, 8 more people died making the perilous crossing in boats that are unseaworthy. But it's the same issue.
It's a different body of water. That's not my question.
You have to work with people to deal with the humanitarian needs of people who are in the sea. You've got to save lives at sea. You have to rescue. That is what international maritime law says.
You are condemning the Italians.
I said earlier that what we have to do is remember that people have to be rescued when they're at sea, but the only way we can deal with this vile trade is to work together with other partners to try to stop it happening across border. If people end up in the sea, of course they have to be rescued. Okay,
so you condemn the fact that the Italian government feels it appropriate that people should be left floundering in the sea if a charity captain of a ship had already done one rescue at that time.
I've made my view of international maritime law and the
so why won't you condemn the Italian
that it
government?
Imposes quite clear, and that is the British government's view, and that is what we do when we come across people who are floundering.
So why are we cozying up to the Italians
in dangerous waters? That is a statement of what we believe, and that is what I've just confirmed.
Okay, so why are we cozying up to the Italians when they are suggesting that charity ships in the Med, their captains, should face huge fines if they carry out more than one rescue at a time? Also doing a deal with Libya, where the Libyan Coast Guard is pushing people back, where they'll find themselves in detention camps where they get tortured.
Meeting with the Italians doesn't mean we endorse absolutely everything every single Italian member of the government says or does.
The Prime Minister.
We are meeting a G7 country and a fellow NATO member to see how we can cooperate across border to deal with some of these vile people smuggling gangs. That is the announcement I'm making today about the 75 million extra to beef up the Border Security Command, and that means that we can send people into Europol, have extra investigators, have more intelligence. We can work with our partners across Europe and in other places to try to put a stop to this vile trade. That is what today is about.
Okay, it's good to see you. I must let you go. Thank you.